Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you are listening in the comments. When my daughter shouted, "You will either serve my husband or get out of my house," I did not answer in anger. I smiled, took my suitcase, and left. I left behind the house I had paid for with my life. She must have been waiting for me to break down, as usual. This time, everything was different. A week later, I had 22 missed calls. That was far from the end of my plan. They will regret their words and their actions. My keys were still warm in my palm when I pushed through the front door. Grocery bags cut into my wrists. Saturday afternoon light filtered through the living room curtains, casting everything in that soft spring glow that usually made me smile. Not today. Harry was sprawled in my leather recliner, Martha's last gift to me before the cancer took her. His stocking feet were propped up. A half-empty beer bottle dangled from his fingers. The remote control rested on his belly like he owned the place, which I suppose he thought he did. He didn't even look up from the basketball game. "Grab me another beer while you're up," he called without turning. I set the grocery bags down slowly. The plastic handles had left red marks across my palms. "Excuse me," I said. "You heard me," he answered. His eyes never left the television. "Corona?" he asked. "Not that cheap stuff you drink?" Something cold settled in my chest. I'd bought those Coronas specifically for him. I'd spent my Social Security money on beer I'd never touch. "Harry, I just walked in. I need to put these groceries away." Now he looked at me. That familiar expression was there, the one that said I was being unreasonable. "What's the big deal? You're already standing. I'm comfortable." "The big deal is that this is my house," I said. Harry's feet hit the floor with a thud. He stood slowly, using his height like a weapon. He was bigger than me, broader, 30, and annoying. "Your house," he scoffed. "Funny, because your daughter and I live here. We pay the bills with my money." "Details?" I asked. He stepped closer, beer still in hand. "Look, Clark, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. You want to keep living here peacefully? You play ball. Simple as that." The kitchen door swung open. Tiffany appeared, her blonde hair in a messy ponytail, a dish towel in her hands. She took in the scene. Harry standing over me, the tension thick enough to choke on. "What's going on?" she asked, that warning tone from her teenage years coming back. "Your father's being difficult," Harry said without taking his eyes off me. "I asked him to get me a beer, and he's making it into some kind of federal case." Tiffany looked at me with disappointment, like I was a child acting out. "Dad, just get him the beer. It's not worth fighting over." But Harry wasn't finished. He moved closer. I could smell the alcohol on his breath. "See, Clark, here's how it's going to work. You live in our house. You contribute. That means when I ask you to do something, you do it. No questions. No attitude. Our house." I kept my voice level, even though my heart was hammering. "That's right," Tiffany said, stepping beside her husband and presenting a united front. "Dad, you need to decide right now. Either you help Harry and do what he asks, or you can pack your things and leave." The words hung in the air like smoke. I looked at my daughter, searching for any hint of the little girl who used to climb into my lap during thunderstorms. She stared back with Harry's same entitled expression. "All right," I said quietly. Harry smirked, thinking he'd won. "Good. Now, about that beer." "I'll pack," I said. The smirk died on his face. Tiffany's mouth fell open like she'd expected me to crumble and apologize. She shuffled to the kitchen like a beaten dog. I turned toward the hallway, leaving the grocery bags where they sat. Behind me, I heard Harry's sharp intake of breath. Tiffany whispered, "Dad, wait." But I was already walking toward my bedroom. My footsteps steady on the hardwood Martha and I had refinished together 20 years ago. The suitcase came down from the closet shelf with a soft thump. I'd bought it for our honeymoon to Yellowstone, back when Martha was still alive, and the future stretched ahead like an open road. Now it gaped empty on the bed, waiting to swallow what remained of my life in that house. I packed methodically, underwear, socks, 3 changes of clothes. Not everything, just enough. From the living room came low murmurs. Harry's voice rose occasionally above Tiffany's softer tones. They were figuring out what to do, how to handle the old man's unexpected rebellion. My hands moved without conscious thought, folding shirts and rolling ties. The photo of Martha went into the side pocket, wrapped in tissue paper. My medications, reading glasses, the small leather journal where I tracked expenses, all in. When I wheeled the suitcase down the hallway, they stopped talking. Harry had returned to his chair, but his posture was different now. Alert, watchful. Tiffany stood by the kitchen doorway, arms crossed, trying to look stern, but failing to hide her uncertainty. Neither of them said goodbye. The car started on the first try. My old Buick, reliable as always. I backed out of the driveway without looking at the house, without checking whether they were watching from the window. The 30-minute drive to Pine Lodge gave me time to think. Memories came in waves as I drove through downtown Kalispell. Tiffany's college tuition, $40,000 a year for that private school she insisted on. I'd worked overtime at the bank for 4 straight years, taking on extra clients and staying late to review loan applications. My hands cramped remembering all those forms. Her wedding cost $25,000. Harry's family couldn't afford their half, so I covered it quietly. I didn't want to embarrass anyone. The reception hall, the flowers, her dress, everything had to be perfect for my little girl's day. Then came the house. $80,000 from my retirement savings for their down payment because young couples needed help getting started. That's what fathers do. That's what Martha would have wanted. The monthly payments followed like clockwork. $1,200 for their mortgage, $300 for utilities, $500 for groceries when money got tight. My Social Security check disappeared into their lives piece by piece, and I'd convinced myself it was love. Pine Lodge. Motel sat on the outskirts of town, a low building with faded paint and a neon sign that flickered intermittently. The room was small but clean. A bed, a chair, a tiny table by the window. I set my suitcase on the luggage rack and sat heavily on the mattress edge. The silence was different here. Not the comfortable quiet of my own home, but the hollow emptiness of a temporary space. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through contacts. Bank numbers, insurance companies, credit card services, numbers I knew by heart after 30 years in finance. Tomorrow was Sunday, but some things could still be done. Some calls could still be made. I opened my laptop on the small table and logged into my online banking. Account balances glowed on the screen. Checking, savings, retirement accounts. Numbers that represented a lifetime of careful planning, of denying myself small luxuries so I could take care of my family. The cursor blinked in the search bar, waiting for me to decide what came next. Sunday morning arrived gray and overcast, fitting my mood perfectly. I spread paperwork across the motel table like a general planning a campaign. Bank statements, insurance policies, legal documents, everything organized, everything within reach. The first call went to First National Bank. Sunday banking was limited, but automated systems never slept. "Good morning, Mr. Miller," the representative said after I navigated the phone tree. "How can I help you today?" "I need to cancel the automatic mortgage payment for 847 Pine Street, account ending in 4729. A pause. Computer keys clicking. "Sir, I show that payment has been active for 5 years. Are you sure you want to discontinue it?" "Completely sure," I answered. "May I ask the reason for the change?" "The homeowners no longer qualify for my financial assistance," I said simply. More clicking. "Very well, Mr. Miller. The automatic payment will be canceled effective immediately. You should receive written confirmation within 3 business days." The second call was easier. Geico had insured both their cars on my policy for 3 years, Harry's Silverado and Tiffany's Honda. $280 every month for vehicles I never drove. I told the agent I needed to remove both vehicles from my policy. "When would you like this change to take effect?" she asked. "Today." The credit cards took longer. Tiffany was an authorized user on 3 of my accounts: Visa, MasterCard, and the store card from Costco. $500 a month I'd been paying on balances I never created. The Visa representative explained that any outstanding balances would remain my responsibility, but the authorized users would be removed. I said, "Remove them immediately." Each call felt like lifting a weight from my shoulders. 30 years of banking experience had taught me the systems and the legal language. Everything I was doing was completely within my rights. The life insurance change required written documentation, but I started the process. $100,000 that had been meant for Tiffany, money I'd earned to protect my family's future. Family meant something different now. By noon, I'd made 8 calls. Mortgage payments stopped, insurance canceled, credit cards blocked, the automatic transfers that had been bleeding my accounts dry for years. All of it ended with polite conversations and confirmation numbers. I sat back in the cheap motel chair and looked at my notes. Confirmation numbers. Reference codes, effective dates, the paper trail of financial independence. My phone sat silent on the table. No missed calls, no urgent messages. They didn't know yet. Probably wouldn't know until the first payment bounced. Across the parking lot, an elderly man was loading suitcases into a pickup truck, his wife directing the operation with gentle efficiency. I envied their easy partnership. Martha and I had been like that once. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I let it ring. The week passed quietly for me, but apparently not for them. I'd settled into a routine at Pine Lodge: coffee from the lobby, breakfast at the diner, long walks around Kalispell's quiet neighborhoods. My phone accumulated missed calls like a collection I had no interest in starting. By Wednesday, there were 12 messages. By Friday, 22. I listened to them in chronological order, watching the progression from confusion to anger to desperation. The first few were almost casual. Tiffany asking if there was some kind of banking error with the mortgage payment. Harry leaving brief, annoyed messages about the car insurance lapsing. By midweek, panic had crept in. "Dad, what the hell is going on?" Tiffany's voice cracked. "The bank says you stopped the automatic payment. They want the full amount by Friday or they'll start foreclosure proceedings." Harry's messages grew aggressive. "Clark, you need to fix this right now. I've got people asking questions about my insurance. You're making us look like deadbeats." The later calls bordered on begging. Tiffany crying, promising they'd work something out if I just called them back. Harry trying a different tack, claiming he'd been too harsh and wanted to make things right. I deleted each message after listening, feeling nothing but a mild curiosity about their growing desperation. Thursday morning brought a knock at my motel room door. Through the peephole, I saw them both, Tiffany in a wrinkled sweater, Harry in his work clothes. They looked like they'd slept badly. I opened the door but didn't invite them in. "Dad," Tiffany said. Her eyes were red-rimmed. Her usual composure cracked. "We need to talk." Harry pushed forward, his face flushed. "About the fact that you're trying to ruin our lives over some stupid argument about beer." "I'm not trying to ruin anything," I said calmly. "I'm simply no longer paying for your lives." "The mortgage, Clark," Harry demanded. "You can't just stop paying the mortgage." "That's our house." "Actually, it's my house," I answered. My name was on the deed, my signature on the loan. They were just residents. Tiffany grabbed Harry's arm as he stepped closer. "Dad, please." "We can work this out. Harry was wrong to talk to you that way. We both were. But you can't just leave us with no warning, no discussion." "You gave me an ultimatum," I reminded her. "Do what Harry says or get out." "Those were your exact words." "I didn't mean it like that," she pleaded. "Yes, you did," I said. "You meant every word. You just didn't expect me to choose option 2. Harry tried a different approach, his voice artificially calm. "We all said things we didn't mean. But you're talking about our home, our credit, our whole lives. You can't just pull the rug out like this." "I can, and I did," I replied, starting to close the door. You wanted me to leave. I left. You wanted to handle your own lives. Now you can. I paused, remembering the little girl who used to rake leaves with me. Family works both ways, sweetheart. I spent 5 years taking care of you both. When it was time for you to take care of me, you chose him instead. Harry lost his temper. You crazy old bastard! He reached for his phone. I can call the police if you keep raising your voice. This is private property, and you're disturbing the peace, I said. That's a matter for the sheriff, not the bully in my living room. They stared at me, probably seeing me clearly for the first time in years, not the soft-hearted father and grandfather-to-be, not the convenient bank account with legs, but a man who'd finally learned to say no. Harry grabbed Tiffany's elbow. Come on, we'll figure this out ourselves. Their swagger was gone. Worry replaced it. Tiffany looked back over her shoulder as if seeing a stranger. I watched them drive away, then closed the door and returned to my laptop. There were still calls to make. The work of dismantling that relationship was far from finished. I needed coffee and a chance to think clearly. The diner on Main Street had always been my refuge when Martha was alive. She'd meet me there after doctor appointments, and we'd split a piece of apple pie while discussing nothing important. Tuesday morning found me walking the familiar 3 blocks, my breath visible in the crisp mountain air. The bell chimed as I entered. Clark Miller, a voice called. Bob Harrison stood with a folded newspaper under his arm. We'd worked together at First National for 15 years. Mind if I join you? He asked, sliding into the opposite seat. Good to see you, I said. The waitress brought coffee. I chose how much to share. Family situation? He asked gently. Heard you moved out to Pine Lodge. Needed space to think, I said. Bob's expression grew serious. That son-in-law of yours tried to pull a fast one a few months back. Wanted a home equity loan on your house, $50,000. He brought paperwork that looked official, but when we ran a title search, everything came back to you. Clean title. No co-signers. The documents he brought in were forged. The implication hit me like cold water. 3 months ago, Harry had been planning to steal from me. This wasn't desperation born from our current fight. It was premeditated deception. Did you report it? I asked. We rejected the application and flagged his information, Bob said. Technically, since no money changed hands, it's a gray area legally, but I kept copies of everything. What was he going to use the money for? Bob lowered his voice. He claimed home improvements, but word around town is Harry's got gambling debts. Substantial ones. Bob suggested Detective Jim Morrison might know more. I remembered Jim from the church building committee. If Jim had information about Harry's gambling, it would be accurate. After the diner, I drove straight to the Flathead County Courthouse. The clerk processed my eviction notice with professional efficiency. Mr. Miller, you understand this is your daughter's residence? She asked as she reviewed the deed. It's my property, I said, handing over the paperwork I'd prepared. She stamped the eviction papers. A 30-day notice period began that day. If they contested, a hearing would be scheduled. Otherwise, the sheriff would serve final papers after the deadline. The law was on my side. Next, I visited the police station. Detective Jim Morrison's office smelled of coffee and old files. Jim had aged, but his handshake was still firm. Harry's definitely known at Glacier Peaks, Jim said after I explained everything. Regular player usually at the poker tables. He's been more frequent lately, playing higher stakes. Different creditors, some legitimate lenders and some you don't want to owe. I'd estimate he owes around $18,000 to $20,000. The numbers staggered me. Harry had been living in my house, eating my food, demanding my respect while secretly burning through enough money to buy a decent car. Who were his creditors? Jim shrugged. Different places. The unsavory ones aren't on the books. I left the station with a clearer picture. The gambling explained the attempts at fraud and the increasing aggression. I wasn't just a convenient funding source. I was his only hope of avoiding serious consequences. That evening, I updated my evidence file. The eviction notice, copies of the forged loan application, notes from Jim, Bob's revelations. Patterns were emerging. Harry wasn't just entitled. He was desperate, dishonest, and dangerous. The more pressure he felt, the more reckless he would become. I needed to be ready. Tomorrow, I would start making strategic calls to Harry's creditors. Not to pay his debts, but to make sure they knew he had no legal claim to my property. The truth is a powerful weapon in a small town. Word travels fast in Kalispell. By Friday, my side of the story was spreading. My first encounter happened at the post office. Mrs. Henderson from the church mailing committee cornered me near the stamp machine. "Clark, dear, I've been hearing troubling things about family troubles. Is everything all right?" I chose my words. Mrs. Henderson would repeat anything I said to a dozen people by Sunday service. Tiffany and Harry asked me to move out, so I did. Sometimes adult children need to handle their own responsibilities. Her eyebrows rose. They asked you to leave your own house? Didn't you pay for their wedding and help with the down payment? I nodded but didn't elaborate. The facts would speak for themselves. At Miller's Hardware, where I worked part-time after retiring, Tom Kowalski and the crew were stunned. "You paid for their college tuition?" Dave asked in disbelief. "Harry told everyone his family was well off. Said they were helping you with mortgage payments." "Harry said a lot of things that weren't true," I said calmly. Tom's face darkened. "That explains why he always seemed to have money but never worked overtime." By noon, the town knew. The small-town network was more efficient than any publicity campaign. At St. Mark's, Pastor Williams invited me into his office. "Sometimes loving someone means allowing them to face the consequences of their choices," he said. "It sounds like you've been protecting them for too long." The next day, Mrs. Patterson, my next-door neighbor for 20 years, called. "Clark, there's been a lot of shouting at the house lately," she said, worried. Word traveled fast. People were starting to see the whole picture. I sat in my motel room that night and listened to the silence. No calls, no messages. For the first time in years, the weight of responsibility felt shared. They had demanded my obedience. I gave them a different lesson. I gave them the truth, the law, and the consequences. They will regret their words and their actions. Harry. And Tiffany, too. Yesterday, the police drove by twice. "Thank you for letting me know, Mrs. Patterson," I said. "I appreciate you keeping an eye on things. Are you safe where you're staying? Do you need anything?" The genuine concern in her voice reminded me that community support came in many forms. "I'm fine, thank you," I told her. "Just taking things one day at a time." That evening, I sat in my motel room, reviewing the day's conversations. The social pressure was building naturally, without any vindictive effort on my part. People simply recognized injustice when they saw it clearly. My phone rang again. Unknown number, but I recognized the area code. Probably one of Harry's creditors. I let it go to voicemail, then listened. "This is Marcus Webb from Frontier Financial Services. We're looking for Harry Thompson regarding a past due account. Please call us at your earliest convenience." They were calling me because Harry had probably listed my house as his address on credit applications. More evidence of his deception. More proof that he'd been planning to make me responsible for his debts. I deleted the message and opened my laptop. Time to update my evidence file. I should have expected them to fight back. Harry never went down quietly. Scene 2. The Lies. Begin Saturday morning started peacefully enough. I was reviewing bank statements over coffee when the phone began ringing. First Tom from the hardware store, then Mrs. Henderson, then Pastor Williams. Each call brought the same disturbing news. Harry was going around town, spreading an alternative version of events. "Clark," Tom said, voice shaking with anger. "He came in here an hour ago, loud as you please, telling everyone you abandoned them without warning. Said you'd promised to always take care of them, then changed your mind out of spite." "What exactly did he say?" I asked. "That you're having some kind of mental breakdown," Tom said. "That you threw them out because Tiffany wouldn't let you control every decision in their lives." "Oh, and he's claiming there's a family medical emergency and you're refusing to help." I thanked Tom and hung up, my mind already working through the implications. Harry was desperate. Launching a public relations campaign meant the pressure from his creditors was intensifying. Scene 3. False accusations. The next call confirmed it. "Mr. Miller." "This is Detective Morrison," the voice said. "Harry Thompson was here this morning filing a complaint about elder abuse. Claims you're being manipulated by someone at the bank." Elder abuse. Ridiculous. The detective sighed. We told him we'd need medical documentation and witness statements, which of course he can't provide. 20 minutes later, the phone rang again. "Tiffany's number. Dad, please pick up," she cried. I know you're angry, but there are things you don't understand. I'm pregnant, Dad. The stress from all this is making me sick. The doctor says if things don't calm down, I could lose the baby. My heart twisted. The protective instinct I'd always had for her came rushing back, but something about her tone felt rehearsed. Congratulations, sweetheart, I said calmly. When did you find out? Last week, right before everything fell apart. Have you seen a doctor? Yes, Dr. Richards at the women's clinic, I nodded. I knew Dr. Richards well. I'll call her office to see how I can help with expenses, I said. Dad, you can't just call my doctor, that's private. You're right, I said. Then have her call me directly. The line went dead. Scene 4. The public confrontation. An hour later, I was downtown when I spotted Harry outside the First National Bank, talking loudly to anyone who'd listen. He's lost his mind, Harry was saying. Senile old man kicked his pregnant daughter out of the house over nothing. I walked up calmly. The crowd turned toward me before he noticed. There he is, Harry sneered. The man who abandoned his family. Hello, Harry, I said evenly. How's the gambling debt situation working out? His face went red. $18,000, I continued. Mostly poker tables at Glacier Peaks Casino, the crowd murmured. Pieces were clicking together. You're crazy, he spat. I can document every dollar I spent supporting you for 5 years, I said quietly. Can you document where your paychecks went? Harry froze, then stormed off, shoving through the crowd. I watched him go, knowing by nightfall, the truth would spread across town. Scene 5. The restraining order back at the motel. I called Detective Morrison. Jim, we need to talk. Harry's escalating. He confronted me publicly, made threats. Come in tomorrow, Morrison said, but I didn't need to wait. That evening, Steve, the Pine Lodge manager, knocked on my door. Mr. Miller, that man from earlier came back, stood outside your door for 5 minutes. We've got it on security video. Can you provide that to the police? I asked. Absolutely, he said. By morning, I was at the station with the footage. Morrison reviewed everything and nodded grimly. Clark, this is enough for a restraining order. We'll fast-track it. Then he added, also, Harry consulted a lawyer Friday about adverse possession laws. Squatters' rights? I asked. Exactly. He was planning to claim ownership of your home in 2 years. The truth hit like cold water. Harry hadn't just been freeloading, he'd been plotting to steal my home. By that afternoon, the restraining order was official. Harry Thompson was legally banned from coming within 500 feet of me or my property. Scene 6. The House of Cards falls. Spent the rest of the day calling every creditor that had contacted me. This is Clark Miller, I said each time. Harry Thompson no longer lives at my address. He works at Mountain View Auto. My property is not his residence. By noon, I'd spoken to 6 agencies. By evening, debt collectors were already pulling up to my old house. Tiffany called, voice shaking. Dad, there are men at the door asking about Harry's debts. They're talking about seizing assets. That's what happens when someone borrows money they can't repay, I said quietly. Harry owes $18,000. Silence. He told me he was working overtime, she whispered. I'm sorry you're learning the truth this way, I said. Then she added, the sheriff's deputy just served him some papers. He's throwing things, yelling, the restraining order, I said calmly. Harry's world was collapsing, and this time, it wasn't my problem to fix. Scene 7. The choice 2 days later, I called Tiffany. Meet me at the diner, I said. Just you. When she arrived, she looked worn and fragile. Dad, the phone won't stop ringing. The debts, the collectors. I waited until she finished. I'm offering you one chance to end this with dignity, I said. Publicly acknowledge the truth, everything I did for you and why I left. You want me to humiliate myself? She asked. No, I said softly. I want you to tell the truth. She stared at her coffee, trembling. What if I can't? Then you'll live with that choice. Harry will probably leave town. Men like him always do. Scene 8. Sunday. 4 days later, Sunday morning arrived, clear and cold. The church was full. Whispers passed through the pews. Everyone knew something was coming. Then Tiffany stood, walked to the front. Her voice trembled. but carried through the sanctuary. For 5 years, my father, Clark Miller, supported us. He paid for my college, $160,000. He paid for our wedding, $25,000. He gave us his home. When we needed groceries, he paid. When we needed help, he helped. And when he refused to obey my husband's demands, we told him to leave. You could hear a pin drop. I chose loyalty to my husband over love for my father, she said through tears. I was wrong. My father deserves respect, not humiliation. When she sat down, the church erupted with soft applause and murmurs of support. After the service, Pastor Williams said, "Sometimes the hardest courage is admitting we were wrong." Tiffany showed that courage today. Scene 9. A New Beginning. Outside, Tiffany approached me. The letter to the Tribune runs Wednesday. The Facebook post goes up tonight, she said quietly. Harry left town yesterday. I filed for divorce this morning. I nodded. I'm sorry your marriage ended this way. I'm not, she said. He'd been using my credit cards for gambling. 3 months later, I stood outside my old home, now transformed into transitional housing for veteran families. Staff Sergeant Maria Santos smiled at me. This means everything to us, Mr. Miller. This house should serve people who understand sacrifice, I told her. My new life was peaceful. Morning coffee by the lake, fishing in the afternoons. Quiet, honest living. Then a text came from Tiffany. Dad, I'm 3 months into counseling. Can we have coffee sometime? I'd like to earn your trust back, one conversation at a time, I smiled. Coffee sounds good. Saturday morning, I typed back. Her reply came instantly. I'll be there. And Dad, thank you for not giving up on me completely. I set my phone down and looked out over the lake. The sun shimmered gold across the water, and for the first time in years, I felt peace, justice served, dignity preserved, and maybe, just maybe, a daughter learning what love really means. Outrow. If you liked this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. To listen to the next story, click the box on the left. Thank you for watching.